In the heart of fairyland, a landscape of green hills, blue skies, and crystalline rivers stood the palace of Queen Faerie. The towers of the palace, covered with ivy and roses, rose to the sky, and butterflies danced in its gardens. Inside one of the grandest halls, illuminated by the light filtering through the leaded glass windows, was Queen Faerie. Her skin was white as snow, her golden hair shone like the sun, and her eyes, deep and wise, seemed to hold all the mysteries of the universe. As he entered the room, Redcrosse, the knight in shining armor with the distinctive red cross on his chest, felt a deep respect. Though he had faced countless enemies and overcome great challenges, the majesty of the Faerie Queen always took his breath away. "Come forward, brave Redcrosse," the queen said in a gentle voice. The knight advanced and knelt before her, lowering his head in respect. "I have called you," the queen continued, "because a calamity has befallen our kingdom. A precious jewel, an essential part of my crown, is missing. Without it, the confines of fairyland are in peril." Redcrosse looked up, meeting the queen's worried gaze. "I will do everything in my power to get her back, my lady," he promised. Queen Faerie nodded. "I know of your bravery and loyalty, Redcrosse. But be careful, the lands you must traverse are treacherous and full of riddles. Go with caution and wisdom." With a wave of her hand, the Faerie Queen handed him a small amulet. "This will protect you on your journey," she said. Redcrosse gratefully took the amulet and placed it around his neck. Thus, with Queen Faerie's blessing and the weight of great responsibility on his shoulders, Redcrosse began his epic quest. As Redcrosse moved deeper into the Enchanted Forest, the towering trees stood as guardians of time, their twisted branches intertwining with the golden gleams of dusk. Their deep roots told stories of ancient times and adventurers who had been lost in their shadows. As he mounted his loyal steed, he heard playful laughter in the distance. Soon, he found himself surrounded by naiads, water spirits that inhabited the streams and ponds of the forest. They danced around him, their hair flowing like waterfalls and their eyes sparkling with starlight. "Brave knight," murmured a naiad, "you seek a treasure beyond our reach. But beware, for not everyone in this forest is as kind as we are." Redcrosse nodded gratefully and continued on his way, but was soon stopped by a faun playing a flute. The music was hypnotic, and Redcrosse felt compelled to follow him. It led him to a clearing where other fauns and dryads danced in a mystical circle. They offered him enchanted fruits, but remembering the naiad's words, Redcrosse refrained from eating. As he moved deeper into the forest, he encountered even greater challenges. A dragon, with scales like iron plates and flaming eyes, guarded a bridge. Redcrosse, drawing his sword, engaged the monster in a fierce duel, using his skill and cunning to dodge the flames and strike the dragon at its weak spot. After the battle, a specter appeared, dressed in rags and with a look of eternal despair. It tried to confuse Redcrosse with illusions and memories of the past, but the knight, with his faith and courage, resisted and moved on. Finally, at dusk, Redcrosse found shelter in an old ruined chapel, where he lit a fire and reflected on the day's trials. After moving deeper into the thicket of the Enchanted Forest, Redcrosse came to a corner where the trees seemed to form a perfect circle, and in its center flowed a river with waters glistening in the twilight light. This was no ordinary river, for its waters shone with an unearthly glow. It was the famous River of Dreams, of which he had heard stories since his childhood. They say that one who looks into or touches the waters of the River of Dreams is flooded with visions. Some see memories of the past, others perceive future events, while some are simply lost in a world of fantasy and reverie. Cautiously, Redcrosse approached the shore, and as he gazed into the river's reflection, he saw blurry, shifting images. Visions of ancient knights, damsels in distress, and monstrous creatures emerged and disappeared in a constant dance of shadow and light. Among the visions, one in particular captured his attention. He saw an island shrouded in dense fog, and at its center, a pedestal upon which gleamed the lost jewel of Queen Faerie. But she was not alone. The jewel was guarded by creatures with melodic voices and glowing bodies, the sirens. However, it was not all clear in the river. She also saw dark warnings, dangers lurking on the island, deceptions, and challenges she would have to face. The island stood, lonely and mysterious, in the middle of the vast ocean, its shimmering sandy beaches reflecting the gold of the setting sun. As Redcrosse approached, he could hear the ethereal, melodic songs of mermaids shimmering in the sun's rays. Their voices were sweet, almost hypnotic, promising lost loves, forgotten adventures and secrets to be discovered. As he approached the shore, the mermaids, with their golden hair and iridescent scales, swam around his boat, trying to seduce him with their charms. But Redcrosse, remembering the warnings about the seduction of these creatures, avoided looking directly into their eyes and plugged his ears with wax, just as the wily Ulysses had done on his ancient voyages. In the center of the island, surrounded by a crystalline lake, stood a marble column where the jewel rested, glowing with an inner fire. But it was not unprotected. The Queen of the Sirens, a creature of unparalleled beauty wearing a crown of pearls, guarded the precious gem. "Who dares to enter my domain seeking what belongs to Fairyland?" she asked in a voice that resonated with the ancient magic of the sea. "I am Redcrosse, Knight of the Faerie Queen," he answered boldly. "I have come to claim what rightly belongs to my queen." The Mermaid Queen smiled, her eyes shining with cunning and power. "If you wish, you must prove yourself worthy. Face my daughters in a challenge of wit and skill." And so Redcrosse was put to the test. He solved riddles inspired by ancient poems, danced with the mermaids to an enchanted tune, and participated in challenges of skill and strength. After passing each test, the Mermaid Queen, though reluctant, admitted her worthiness. "You are worthy, Knight of the Red Cross," she said, allowing him to take the jewel. With the gem in hand, Redcrosse thanked the Mermaid Queen and promised that, even though they were enemies at the time, he would always remember the island's worth and beauty. With the jewel secured, he set sail from the island, with the song of the sirens fading in the distance, marking the end of an adventure and the beginning of his triumphant return. Upon returning to Queen Faerie's court, the palace was filled with an expectant buzz. News of Redcrosse' mission had spread like the wind, and everyone from the noble elves to the lowliest fairies anxiously awaited his return. As Redcrosse crossed the bridge to the castle, a carpet of rose petals was thrown at his feet by the wood nymphs. Musicians played ancient melodies, full of hope and triumph, which echoed throughout the kingdom. As she entered the great hall, she was met with a deafening ovation. The glow of the jewel in her hand caught the light, casting rainbows throughout the room. Queen Faerie, her gaze piercing and serene, rose from her throne and approached him. "Bravo, brave Redcrosse," she said in a melodious voice. "You have faced challenges that would have staggered many, and yet here you stand, with the jewel that ensures the well-being of our kingdom." Redcrosse humbly bowed his head and placed the jewel in the Queen's outstretched hands. "I must serve Fairyland and its sovereign," he replied in a firm voice. The Queen, with a radiant smile, placed the jewel in her crown. The radiance of the gem seemed to illuminate the entire kingdom, and a sense of peace and harmony spread throughout the land. That night, the court held a banquet in Redcrosse' honor. Bards and minstrels sang songs in his honor, recounting his brave journey and his confrontations with the creatures of darkness. Stories of his bravery became legends that would be told for generations in Fairyland. However, during the festivities, Redcrosse retreated quietly to the palace gardens, seeking a moment of stillness. There, gazing at the stars and feeling the coolness of the night wind, he reflected on his adventure, grateful for having had the strength and courage to do his duty.